What if everything you knew about Muhammad Ali was wrong? What if his greatest fight wasn't in the ring, but against a system that wanted to destroy him? This is that story. Before we begin, I need you to understand something. This isn't another Ali highlight reel. This isn't about the shuffle, the speed, or the championships. This is about the 43 months that were stolen from him, the conspiracy that tried to erase him, and how one man's refusal to stay silent changed not just boxing, but the entire world. Because here's what they don't teach you. Muhammad Ali didn't just win fights. He won a war against the United States government, and the weapons he used, words, conviction, and an unbreakable spirit. So forget everything you think you know. We're going back to April 28th, 1967, the day everything changed. Houston, Texas. Armed Forces examining an entrance station. Muhammad Ali, heavyweight champion of the world, stands in a room with 25 other young men. Outside, protesters chant his name. Inside, a military officer calls out, Cassius Marcellus Clay. Silence. The officer calls again. Cassius Marcellus Clay, step forward. Ali doesn't move because that's not his name anymore. He changed it 3 years ago when he joined the Nation of Islam. But the government refuses to acknowledge it. Their first psychological attack. The officer calls a third time. Ali takes one step forward and says 8 words that will cost him everything. I ain't got no quarrel with them, Viet Cong. Actually, that's what he said to reporters months earlier. Today, he says something simpler. I refuse to be inducted into the armed forces of the United States. Within 1 hour, 60 minutes, the New York State Athletic Commission suspends his boxing license. Within 24 hours, every state in America follows. His passport is revoked, his title is stripped, his livelihood is destroyed. Muhammad Ali, 25 years old, at the absolute peak of his physical powers, is banned from the only thing he's ever known, boxing. Now here's what makes this different from every other athlete protest you've ever heard about. Ali didn't just lose his career. He faced 5 years in federal prison. He faced a $10,000 fine equivalent to about $90,000 today. He faced complete financial ruin. And everyone, his trainers, his promoters, his own mother, begged him to just take one step forward. Do the ceremony. You don't even have to fight. Just put on the uniform for the cameras and they'll give you a safe assignment. Teach boxing to soldiers. Stay in America. Keep your title. But Ali understood something they didn't. He understood that some compromises destroy your soul. He said, I'm not going 10,000 miles to help murder, kill, and burn other people simply to help continue the domination of white slave masters over dark people. The media crucified him. The newspaper columns called him a traitor, a coward, a draft dodger. Former heavyweight champions like Joe Louis Ali's hero condemned him publicly. The governor of Illinois said Ali should be held in utter contempt by every patriotic American. His earning potential went from millions per fight to zero. He was 25 years old. Most boxers peak between 25 and 30. The government was stealing his prime years, and they knew it. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because Ali didn't disappear. He couldn't fight, so he did something more dangerous. He started talking. Universities started inviting him to speak. Harvard, Princeton, Howard. At first, administrators expected a broken man, maybe someone asking for sympathy. Instead, they got a philosopher warrior. Ali would walk into auditoriums filled with white students who'd been taught to hate him, and he'd say things like, why should they ask me to put on a uniform and go 10,000 miles from home and drop bombs and bullets on brown people in Vietnam while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs? The audiences would go silent because nobody was saying these things on national television. Not with this clarity, not with this power. He'd debate college professors. He'd debate politicians, and he was winning, not with fists, but with logic that people couldn't refute. Meanwhile, the war in Vietnam was getting worse. Body bags were coming home. American boys 18, 19, 20 years old were dying in rice paddies. And more people were starting to ask the same questions Ali asked. The government thought by silencing Ali the boxer, they'd silence Ali the voice. They were wrong. They'd created something more powerful. Ali the symbol. But let's be real about something. These weren't easy years for Ali. He was making a few $100s per speaking engagement when he should have been making millions in the ring. His first marriage collapsed under the pressure. The FBI was following him everywhere, tapping his phones, building a file on him. In boxing, the thing he loved more than anything was happening without him. Joe Frazier won the heavyweight title Ali never lost in the ring. Jimmy Ellis, his former sparring partner, held a version of the championship. Young fighters were making names while Ali aged in exile. Every morning, he'd wake up knowing he was in his prime and couldn't use it. Imagine being the best in the world at what you do and being forbidden from doing it. Not because you're injured, not because you're not good enough, but because you stood for something. 3 years passed, then 3.5. Ali was now 28 years old. In boxing, boxing years, that's ancient for someone who hasn't fought. The speed goes. The reflexes slow. Father Time is undefeated. But something was changing in America. The anti-war movement was growing. Martin Luther King Jr. came out against the Vietnam War in 1967, citing Ali's courage as inspiration. College students who once booed Ali were now protesting draft boards themselves. Public opinion was shifting. And finally, in 1970, the city of Atlanta, not New York, not Las Vegas, but Atlanta, Georgia, gave Ali a license to fight again. October 26, 1970, Jerry Quarry versus Muhammad Ali. Ali's first fight in 3 years and 7 months. Nobody knew what to expect. Would Ali still have the speed? Would his legs hold up? Was he still the same fighter? The bell rings, and within seconds, everyone has their answer. Ali is different. He's not faster, he's actually a half step slower, but he's smarter, more economical, more precise. He stops Quarry in the third round, blood pouring from a cut above Quarry's eye. Ali is back. But here's what nobody tells you about comebacks. They're never clean. They're never simple. Because while Ali was away, the sport moved on, and there was a new king. Joe Frazier, Smokin' Joe, the man who grew up in poverty in South Carolina, who worked in a slaughterhouse, who had his own story of struggle. And Frazier had what Ali wanted, the undisputed heavyweight championship. The problem? Frazier hated Ali, despised him. Because while Ali was giving speeches at universities, Frazier was fighting his way up, and Ali trying to promote a potential fight called Frazier Ugly, called him ignorant, called him a tool of white establishment. Ali was using the same psychological warfare he used on Sonny Liston. Break them mentally before you break them physically. But Frazier wasn't Liston. Frazier took it personally. Frazier remembered every word. March 8, 1971, Madison Square Garden, the fight of the century. Both fighters undefeated. $30 million in revenue. The biggest sporting event in history at that time. And Ali lost. 15th round, Frazier landed a left hook that put Ali on the canvas. First time Ali had been knocked down in his professional career, Frazier won by unanimous decision. The media that had crucified Ali for his stance on Vietnam now mocked him for losing. Some said karma had caught up to him. Others said those 3 stolen years had taken his greatness. But Ali did something that showed his real character. In the locker room after, he didn't make excuses. He said, "I got beat by a great champion. I'll be back." And here's what most people don't understand about that loss. Ali's biggest victory wasn't winning fights. It was what happened while he was fighting. In June 1971, just 3 months after Ali lost to Frazier, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled 8-0 in Ali's favor. They overturned his conviction. The government's 5-year persecution of Muhammad Ali was declared unconstitutional. Ali was vindicated, not just in boxing, but in history. But he still wanted that title back, the one they stripped from him, the one he never lost in the ring. This brings us back to where we started. Kinshasa, Zaire, October 30th, 1974. The rumble in the jungle. But now you understand the context. This isn't just a fight. This is the culmination of 7 years of struggle. This is Ali trying to prove that the 3 years they stole didn't break him. George Foreman is the champion, 25 years old, undefeated, 40 wins, 37 knockouts. He destroyed Joe Frazier, the man who beat Ali in 2 rounds. He destroyed Ken Norton, the man who broke Ali's jaw in 2 rounds. Every expert picks Foreman. The odds are 7-1 against Ali. People aren't just predicting Ali will lose. They're worried he might die in the ring. Ali is 32. In boxing, that's old. He's already fought Joe Frazier 3 brutal times. He's absorbed punishment that would end most careers. The night before the fight, journalists ask Ali if he's scared. He says, "I'm scared of nothing, but Foreman should be scared of me. I'm going to dance for 15 rounds and he won't land a punch." But here's what Ali knows and nobody else does. He's been studying Foreman for months, watching every fight, analyzing every pattern, and he's discovered something. Foreman is a machine, yes, but machines have predictable patterns. Foreman loads up on every punch. He puts maximum power in every combination. That's intimidating, but it's also exhausting. Ali has a plan, and it's insane. Round 1, the bell rings. Ali doesn't dance. He walks straight to Foreman and starts throwing punches. Fast combinations. Everyone is confused. This isn't the plan. Ali's supposed to move, to use his speed. But Ali is doing something brilliant. He's testing Foreman, seeing how the champion responds under pressure, seeing if Foreman has more than just power. Round 2, Ali moves to the ropes and covers up, lets Foreman punch him. body shots, combinations. The crowd gasps. What is Ali doing? He's going to get killed. But watch closely. Ali is leaning back against the ropes, using them like a hammock. Every punch Foreman throws, Ali is rolling with, absorbing on his arms and gloves. Very few are landing clean. And after each Foreman combination, Ali whispers in his ear, "Is that all you got, George? My grandmother punches harder than you. You can't hurt me." Psychological warfare. While Foreman is exhausting himself, Ali is breaking his confidence. Round 3, 4, 5, 6. Same pattern. Foreman punching, Ali covering, talking, surviving. Foreman's corner is screaming, "Stop punching the arms, go to the body." But Foreman can't help himself. He's frustrated. This isn't how it's supposed to go. Ali is supposed to be unconscious by now. Round 7. You can see it in Foreman's eyes. The confusion, the exhaustion. His punches are slower. His breathing is heavier. The Zaire heat 90 degrees. Humid is destroying him. Ali senses it, like a predator smelling blood. Round 8. Foreman throws a combination. Ali slips it, comes off the ropes, and unleashes a perfect 5-punch combination. Straight right, left hook, right hand. Foreman stumbles backward, falls. The unbeatable champion is on the canvas. The referee counts. Foreman tries to get up, can't. The count reaches 10. Muhammad Ali, at 32 years old, 7 years after they tried to destroy him, is the heavyweight champion of the world again. But here's why this matters beyond boxing. Here's why we're talking about this 50 years later. Muhammad Ali proved that standing for something is worth more than winning everything. He sacrificed his prime years, his financial security, his reputation, because he believed sending young men to die in an unjust war was wrong. He was vilified for it, called a traitor, stripped of his title, but he never wavered, and eventually history proved him right. The Vietnam War is now widely considered a mistake. Ali's stance is now considered heroic, but he made that stand when it cost him everything. And then, just when everyone thought those lost years had ended his greatness, he came back and proved he was still the greatest. Not because he was the most physically gifted. By 1974, he wasn't. Not because he was the hardest puncher, he never was, but because he understood that fighting isn't just physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's about will. The rope-a-dope wasn't just a boxing strategy, it was a metaphor for his entire life. Let them throw their punches, absorb the pressure, survive, and when they're exhausted from trying to break, you strike. That's what Ali did against the US government, against public opinion, against George Foreman, against everyone who said he was finished. Muhammad Ali died in 2016, but his legacy isn't about boxing records. It's about courage. It's about the power of conviction. It's about proving that one person, standing alone, can change the world. So the next time you face something that seems impossible, the next time everyone tells you to compromise, to give up, to stay quiet, remember the kid from Louisville who became the champion of the world, lost everything for his principles, and came back to prove that greatness isn't about never falling down. It's about what you do after they knock you down. Muhammad Ali, the people's champion, the Louisville Lip, the greatest of all time. Not because of what he did in the ring, but because of what he stood for outside of it. If this story moved you, share it, because Ali's message that standing for something is worth everything is needed now more than ever. Thanks for watching, and remember, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, but most importantly, stand for something that matters.